Other than religious significance, what makes the Easter story so good, and what is it about the story that we really like? This is a story about a man named Jesus who claims to be the Son of God and has been performing miracles and teaching his entire life. But the priests are tired of this and decide to kill Jesus with the help of one of his disciples, Judas. Jesus and his disciples prepare for the traditional Passover feast, and during this dinner, Jesus says that one of them will betray him. With the help of Judas, a crowd of soldiers come to take away Jesus, and he is put before Pilate, a Roman governor. Pilate finds no fault in Jesus, but the people insist that he die. In fact, they rather release a murderer. The mode of execution is crucifixion. Jesus is whipped and a crown of thorns is placed on his head. They hang him on the cross, of course, until he dies. A rich man requests the body of Jesus and places him in a sealed tomb. However, after 3 days, the tomb is open and Jesus' body is not there. And in the end, Jesus comes back to life and appears to all of the disciples and some friends before ascending into the sky. First and foremost, the story presents the concept of redemption or second chances. Yes, in the religious context, the death and resurrection of Jesus gives everyone a second chance at what was a doomed life through sin. But it's not just that. Looking closer, we see other situations where second chances are presented and how different characters choose to handle the situation differently. In the case of Judas, after betraying Jesus, he tries to return the bribe money, but the priest won't take it back. Here, Judas could have still been forgiven. He had been listening to Jesus' teachings, which meant that he knew that his sins would be wiped away through salvation. However, he chose to hang himself instead, and thus in Judas's case, he chose to act cowardly when given a second chance. And in the case of Pilate, he has a choice of not sentencing Jesus to death. And while presented with this choice, he chooses to wash his hands of this act and not take responsibility of the outcome. Even the two men who are crucified next to Jesus are presented with choices. One chooses to believe and the other does not. But what makes the story so good? Perhaps it's the drama that is created when the main character of not only these biblical chapters but the entire book dies and comes back to life. Throw onto that key motives in which the main character dies, and that's literary gold. This may not seem too monumental, but think about other stories that have similar storytelling devices. In the Chronicles of Narnia, Aslan, the lion, dies and comes back to life in a Christ-like way. However, he isn't the main character in that story. Similarly, Gandalf experiences a death and resurrection in Lord of the Rings, but again as a support and mentor character. But what about Harry Potter? Doesn't Harry die? Well, yes, but not in the self-sacrificing manner that we see through Christ, Aslan, or Gandalf. And so it's this self-sacrificing element that makes the Easter story so powerful. Think about it. We're talking about a character who has unlimited power. If he wanted to, he could wipe out all of his oppressors. He didn't have to die, but he chooses to die. It's a choice, and that's what is so amazing. And ultimately, that's why the Easter story is so powerful. So whether it's attending a religious service, eating out with family, watching basketball on TV, or hunting for eggs, have a great Easter.